A German Panzer III grinds across a dirt road in North Africa. Behind a low ridge, 3 American soldiers watch it come. One of them is holding a boy's anti-tank rifle, standard issue, supposedly enough to stop armor. He fires. The round sparks off the hull and does nothing. Again! It's not penetrating! Fire again! 3 more rounds, 3 more sparks. The tank doesn't even slow down. The soldiers scatter as the Panzer's machine gun opens up, chewing the ridge apart. This is not a rare moment in 1941 and early 1942. This is the normal experience of an American infantryman facing German armor. Because the truth is simple and it is terrifying. The United States Army has no reliable way for a single soldier to kill a tank. Not a good one, not a mediocre one, none. And German armored doctrine is built entirely around exploiting exactly that gap. Somewhere in Maryland, one man has been trying to solve this problem for a decade and getting ignored for just as long. His name is Leslie Skinner. And what he and a small team build in less than a year will change the shape of every battlefield in the war. Rewind to 1932, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Leslie Skinner is a young Army officer with an obsession the Army hasn't approved of: rockets. Officially, there's no program for this, no budget, no requirement. So Skinner runs his experiments anyway, quietly on the side, using whatever material and spare hours he can find. Rockets are toys, Skinner. Artillery wins wars, not fireworks. For most of the 1930s, that's the answer he gets. Rocket propulsion is unreliable. Accuracy is poor. Nobody in ordnance sees a battlefield use for it. Skinner keeps working anyway because he's convinced the requirement is coming, whether the Army admits it yet or not. Then, in 1940, France falls in 6 weeks. German panzer divisions prove that fast-moving armor, supported by infantry, can collapse an entire front before anyone can organize a defense. American observers watching from across the Atlantic understand the implication immediately. If the U.S. enters this war, its infantry will face the same machines. Right now, they have nothing that can stop them. By late 1940, the newly formed National Defense Research Committee finally authorizes real funding for rocket weapons research. Skinner's decade of bootlegged experiments suddenly becomes official Army business. It's the opening he's waited 8 years for. But authorization is not a finished weapon. And the clock, though nobody has said it out loud yet, has already started. Skinner has a rocket motor that works. What he doesn't have is a warhead that can actually kill a tank. That problem is being solved in a completely different building, by a man Skinner has never met. Henry Mohaupt, a Swiss-born inventor working with U.S. Ordnance, has been developing something called a shaped charge warhead, originally designed for a rifle grenade. The principle is strange but devastating. Instead of raw, explosive force, the charge focuses its blast into a narrow, high-velocity jet that burns straight through armor plate. It doesn't need a heavy gun to deliver it just needs to hit. By February and March of 1942, Army Ordnance makes the decision that defines the entire project. Combine them: Skinner's rocket motor, Mohaupt's warhead, one weapon fired from a soldier's shoulder. On paper, it sounds simple. Take a working propulsion system, attach a working warhead, done. In practice, nobody has ever solved the one problem standing between those two components and a usable weapon. We have the motor. We have the warhead. What we don't have is a way to aim and fire it without killing the man holding it. Because that's the real obstacle. It isn't propulsion. It isn't explosives. It's the exhaust. A rocket fired from a soldier's shoulder sprays flame backward with enough force to kill the man standing behind him. Every early rig, open racks, wooden frames, improvised sleds, solves half the problem and creates a new one. Edward Uhl is a young ordnance engineer on Skinner's small team, not a rocket specialist, a problem solver, which is exactly what's needed now. He needs something that shields the operator from the exhaust while still letting the rocket fly straight and true. Uhl spends days turning the problem over. Then, according to the story he told for the rest of his life, the answer comes from something almost absurdly ordinary. Scrap piles at Aberdeen are full of heavy cardboard shipping tubes, used for packing large-caliber artillery shells. What if the launcher is just a tube, open at both ends? The rocket fires straight through it. The tube shields the shooter. His hands never touch the exhaust path. Uhl cleans one out, rigs a crude wire sight onto it, and loads a rocket. May 1942, he tests it. The rocket fires clean through the tube. The back blast vents safely out the rear instead of into him. And finally, after years of experimentation, it works. But there's a problem. The cardboard proves the principle, and then it chars and weakens after a single firing. Nobody is taking a cardboard tube into North Africa. So the team does the obvious thing immediately. They rebuild the launcher in thin-walled, seamless steel. Same open tube principle, same 2.36-inch bore, a material that can survive real use. The cardboard tube didn't become the weapon. It proved the idea that became the weapon. Someone on the test range looks at the long steel tube and laughs. That looks just like Bob Burns's instrument. Is what? Bob Burns is a popular American comedian known for playing a homemade instrument built from pipe fittings, which he calls a bazooka. The nickname sticks immediately. Officially, it's the rocket launcher M1. Unofficially, from this point forward, it's the bazooka. It never stops being called that. But a working prototype tested in May is not a fielded weapon, and the schedule ordnance is now operating under is brutal. American and British planners are already committing to an invasion of North Africa. Operation Torch, set for November 8, 1942. Standard production doesn't begin until September 1942 at General Electric. That leaves barely 2 months between the first launcher rolling off a production line and troops needing it on a beach. There is no time for a normal Army procurement cycle. No years of refinement, no slow production ramp, no extended field trials, no standard training pipeline. Counting from the authorization and design push in late 1941 and early 1942 through combat deployment that November, the entire weapon, motor, warhead, launcher, goes from concept to battlefield in roughly 10 to 11 months. For a brand new weapon system built around components from 2 separate research programs, that is not a normal timeline. That is an emergency timeline. Every stage that would normally take a full test cycle gets compressed into weeks. We need penetration data against captured German armor plate, now, not next quarter. Engineers work double shifts. Prototypes are built, fired, torn apart, and rebuilt within days instead of months. There are failures, rockets that misfire, sights that don't hold zero, ignition that's unreliable. Each failure gets logged, diagnosed, and corrected immediately, because there isn't time to schedule a fix for later. Colonel, the ignition system is still inconsistent in cold conditions. North Africa isn't cold. Ship what works. Keep refining the rest in parallel. That single decision, ship what works now, keep improving in parallel, becomes the defining logic of the entire program. There is no perfect bazooka in 1942. There is only a bazooka that is dramatically better than nothing. By September, General Electric is manufacturing launchers at a pace nobody would have called realistic a year earlier. Thousands of units and rockets are rushed onto transport ships bound for North Africa. There's barely time to train anyone properly. Some units don't even see a bazooka until they're already aboard the troop ships. Soldiers unpacking crates and learning to load the thing on the deck days from the landing beaches. American troops land in North Africa as part of Operation Torch. Among their equipment is a weapon most of the enemy has never seen before. A soldier kneels behind cover, bazooka on his shoulder, watching a Panzer III close the distance. Steady, steady. He fires. The rocket streaks forward and detonates against the side of the hull. For the first time, an American infantryman, alone without artillery support, has just put a hole through enemy armor with a weapon he is carrying by himself. It isn't a miracle weapon. The M6 warhead is rated to punch through roughly 3 inches of armor at a straight-on hit, enough to kill a Panzer III or IV through the side, rear, or top. But soldiers learn fast that aiming matters as much as firing. Frontal armor on the newer German tanks is a different story, and later in the war, against the Tiger and the Panther, the bazooka's warhead simply isn't enough from the front. GIs are trained to go for the tracks, the sides, the engine deck, never the glacis plate. None of that erases what just happened. In early 1941, an American infantryman facing a tank had almost nothing. By November 1942, he has a weapon that can kill one if he knows where to put it. News of the weapon spreads fast, including to the enemy. Germany captures examples of the bazooka in North Africa and studies it closely. Within about a year, German engineers produce their own dramatically scaled-up version, the Panzerschreck. The idea Skinner, Mohaupt, and Uhl rushed into existence under deadline pressure doesn't just arm American troops. It restarts an entire arms race in shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons for the rest of the war. The weapon keeps evolving too. An upgraded warhead, the M6A3 pushes penetration to roughly 4 inches. But even that isn't enough against the heaviest German armor. By 1945, the Army fields a larger 3.5-inch successor, the Super Bazooka, to finally solve the problem the original M1 never fully could. Edward Uhl put it simply, decades later, the whole thing, from a scrap-pile cardboard tube to a combat-ready weapon, happened faster than almost anyone in ordnance thought possible because it had to. There was no version of this story where the U.S. Army had the luxury of time. The deadline came first. The weapon had to catch up to it. That's the real story of the bazooka. Not just a clever piece of engineering, a piece of engineering that only exists because a handful of people, working across separate programs under an impossible clock, refused to let not enough time be the reason it didn't get built. The bazooka is one answer to one problem, solved under one impossible deadline. But World War II is full of these stories. Weapons that didn't exist yet when the war demanded them, built in months instead of years. By engineers racing a clock nobody could stop. This is the first entry in a new series, Weapons That Changed World War II. Next time we go inside another race against time, a weapon so feared it changed how every army on Earth thought about the battlefield it was built for. Subscribe so you don't miss it.